Alicia, welcome to the show, Mama. I'm so excited to have you here.
Que lo que, what's up? What's up? I was just telling her before we started, I'm like, mira ese libro, look at the book, look at shining in the back, like lit. I love it.
I knew when I found you on social media that we were going to have a bomb ass conversation that is going to hype people up to get their money shit together. So let's start off with an introduction. Tell us who you are and what you do, please.
Absolutely. My name is Alicia. I am the founder of Mamas Dinero. I'm a blog. I have content behind making money, but mostly around budget education so that you can learn how to invest, whether it's in real estate or stocks, etc. But I start with budgeting because si tú no sabes, if you don't know what your dollars and your cents are, you won't be able to even invest or do anything. And so that's what I start off with. And I also start with just teaching parents about how they can teach money to their kids because it really starts at home. That money conversation starts in like, hey, mom, that person, what is that? How is that? So that's what I really, really try to do within my blog and the Latino community. I'm Dominican, if you can't tell. I really speak to the Latino community because there's a lot of things that we go through as women and as people. And I kind of want to like just punch those stigmas out of the way. So that's what I do. And I have multiple business because, of course, Dominicans were hustlers, right?
Absolutely. And we're going to dive into all of that. So I want to go back in time before you were this badass hustler, making money, having all these side hustles. What was your financial situation like? Tell me what you learned about money growing up and how you think that has impacted you as an adult.
So I learned two aspects of growing up. So growing up, actually, my father was very good with money. To this day, he's amazing with money. But we always heard like, yo no tengo dinero, yo no tengo dinero. Like, I don't have any money. I don't have any money. And it wasn't that they said it, just that was out of it. They didn't understand value in a sense. So I always thought like, okay, it has to be a good reason. But I grew up with really good values. Like my dad bought his first property, came from America to Boston and bought his first property at 18. Like hardly had an education, to be honest with you, like high school education. Came from DR and did that. He started to understand the way that money worked, but it was a different mindset. It's like you obtain this, you obtain that. Okay, what's next? Okay, can't do this. So I did have a good grasp, but then when I grew up, I was a little rebellious, like always. So I was like, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to get my own credit cards. I'm not going to listen to papi because I grew up in a very strict home. And then I got in trouble. Clearly, you spending money and you're not getting educated on the credit cards, like. So I made a lot of mistakes. I opened businesses. I wasn't thinking about profits. I was thinking, I'm making money. No, you weren't. I had to just like, and then life struck and I had a really bad medical emergency. And I literally had to take out every piece of money in my 401k, like everything. And I was on my ass, like literally on my ass. And I think that it took for me to do that was like, no, I don't want to live like this. And then somebody said to me, what do you want to do when you're 70? Like, what do you want to do? I'm like, wait, 70? And it hit me like, I don't want to do that I don't want to wait till I'm 70. I want to retire tomorrow. And being a mom and all that, it was just like, oh no, something has to change. But I will be honest with you, it had to change on my mind. That's how it all started. My mind had to start being rebellious. My mind has started to have to be like educated.
It sounds like it was a roller coaster of learning a las malas, as they say, which I think is what happens to a lot of us. We find ourselves in a situation where it's like, oh shit, everything that I thought I knew, I don't. And something's got to change. I know for me, I got a lot of the messaging that is traditional to our community in that, like, if you want to build wealth, you buy a house. Like, that's the only thing. There was no talking about investing. Nobody knew what a high yield savings account was. You play the lottery if you want to become a millionaire. It was just all of that shit. And I had to realize after doing the things that I was told to do, like go to college, get the good job, buy the house. None of that was bringing me any kind of personal satisfaction. And it did not feel like that was the gateway for me to pursue this success, to pursue this life that I should be excited about. For me, it felt like, wait a minute. Y'all told me to go to school. Now I'm on $50K worth of debt. Now I got to work this fucking job that I hate. And then y'all told me to buy a house, spend $500,000 on that, get a mortgage for 30 years to, again, work this job that I don't even like. Like, how is this success? And so once I started to really ask myself those questions about like, what does your life, your dream life actually look like? It was not having to work. It was not having to worry about money. It was not owing people money. It was all the things that people did not tell me because nobody even knew that that was a possible way to live.
Absolutely. And I think that, of course, I mean, growing up, I mean, unless it's Walter Mercado, right? What does he say? What did he say for your wealth, right? It was always in someone else's hands. And I think that understanding that your happiness is really important. Like, I'm a creator, an artist. I love crafting. I love sewing. I love doing all these different things, but that's not supposed to be what you're supposed to do. It's not the teacher, doctor, all that stuff. And I keep it really real on my blog with people. I'm like, listen, I have student loans, but I have a system. I had credit card debt. I got rid of it. Like all these different things that I tell people, it's like, you have to change your mindset that you are in control, nobody else. And this dialogue that we tell ourselves that we have to go to school, we have to do this. Like, no, you don't have to do anything. Maybe for a little bit, boo boo. Maybe you got a budget. Maybe you got to think about them shoes and going to go see Bad Bunny if you don't got Bad Bunny money. Okay. Right. But at least you know that's one step so that después you can say, all right, I can do what I really, really want. But yeah, girl, I get it. I'm trying. I tell this, like, I always keep it real. Like, I'm in that journey with people as well. You know, I have multiple businesses. I have a daughter that's like my wife. Like, we have these dreams, but ching a ching. It's not overnight, but you got to be prepared to put in ponte la pila, like put the batteries on, you know?
You have to give yourself those couple of years of the sacrifice to then be able to live the lifestyle that other people could only dream of, right? And I think in today's society, with this real focus on short-term instant gratification, it's hard to make a decision to change what you're doing, especially if it's become your norm, if it's become comfortable, if you're just like, this is good enough. You have to start asking yourself, is good enough actually good enough? Or could you be capable of doing more if you gave yourself an opportunity to change the way you're moving with your money? I want to know for you, once you found yourself in that debt with the medical bills, like what was the first thing that you did? Because, you know, a lot of people confront their situations and they're just like, fuck it. I can't do anything about this. It is what it is.
Yeah, I honestly started with the budget. I started with a budget and I started like, what do I want? Like, if I don't have my credit right or if I don't have my finances right, what's my life going to look like? And when I say starting off with educating yourself, not just listening what Titiro Mundato tells you, y fulanito de tal, okay, like telling them, oh, you can't do that. You can't call the hospital. Es una mafia. No, that's not true. All right. You just pick up the phone, just like you call your friend and be like, listen, we're going to talk. We're going to negotiate because it's a business. So I sat down with the basic of the basic, a budget. And I said, this is what I'm bringing in. This is what I need to, my goals. This is what I have in debt. Hold up. Then I started researching like how to get rid of this stuff because I had insurance or they billed me incorrectly, which 80% of the hospitals do if you look at stuff. And I'm like, I need to advocate for myself. Once I learned how to do that and ask the people who have done it, not people who are just giving you advice, just be like, yeah, because they think, no, they've done it. Then I started to seeing changes. And literally, I'm not going to lie to you, in 3 months, I got rid of over $80,000 worth of medical debt.
3 months. Okay, break it down.
Okay, so I literally got my credit reports because you got to get that. That's free. A lot of people don't know that.
Annualcreditreport.com.
Yep, there you go. You get all three because you need all three. And then I started to highlight all these different things. And I'm like, pero ven acá, this is not on that one. And it was like a little game, of course. I tried to see what is what. I called which ones are in credit, like, you know, like if they're
delinquent
in collections. And then I call the hospitals. And what you don't know that a lot of hospitals have programs that will pay for your debt based on whatever it is, or if it's false information. I went through it fine tooth and I started writing the letters, simple letters of like, you need to give me proof and itemized of exactly the Tylenol que tú me diste a mí. And also, right, to see, because a lot of these doctors bill stuff. And then I'm like, but wait, I had insurance. So literally, I just started to like highlight things and writing letters. And some of them wrote back, some of them didn't. And when they finally didn't, they were like, well, we have a program for you or call this number. And I was literally on the phone every day because it's a good job, but I got rid of it. I got rid of all that debt. And it was, some of that debt was not even real. Some of that debt was just, they were piling stuff. And that's the education. That's the advocating for yourself. And that's why, you know, when people are like, Spanish people, they go to the doctor, they don't ask questions, you know, or they give their social security number. My dad used to say, tú estás aplicando for a job, then you should be giving your social. You shouldn't be giving your social to everybody if you're not applying for a job or anything, whatever. And I'm like, you know, right? He's right. Why do they have my social for some of these things? So again, I started with, like you said, the basics of like sacrificing those time and getting rid of. And then that's how we, saved up money and did all that stuff to buy the home. And it was for an investment because I told you that I invest in rentals. It was an investment. It's like a monopoly piece, but you got to know the game.
Yeah.
And it starts with educating yourself.
That whole point that you just made about the self-advocacy, I think is probably one of the most important skills that you can learn, because that's going to help you negotiate a raise. That's going to help you advocate for your prices in your business. That's going to help you negotiate on the sale of a home. Anything that you got to be dealing with money. Like, I don't want anybody out here to just accept the terms that somebody throws at you. You can negotiate your credit card interest rate. You can renegotiate your loans. You can do so much. Like, you do not have to be a victim to the circumstance. And it starts by you just having the cojones to say, I don't agree with this. I'm going to need some more information. I'm going to need some evidence. I need to speak to your manager. Like, we got to be okay with being Karens for our money. Okay?
Exactly. I tell people that rent, because I'm a landlord, I tell people, go to your landlord and say, hey, I'm going to mow the grass. I'm going to do all these different things to the improvement. I guarantee you that your landlord, or come talk to me, I guarantee you your landlord is going to be like, you know what? Yeah, I'll take that off of your rent. Yeah, you're going to do this improvement. I do it to my tenants. I tell them, you're going to do the grass and the snow and all that stuff. Of course I take it off. You're going to put something new. Of course you are increasing my property. So that's another way that you can negotiate with the regular things in your life, and thinking, like you said, advocating and asking questions. Like, don't be quiet. Ask questions of why. But why is it? My daughter's 4 and she's in that phase where like, why, mommy? Why? And I'm like, yeah, baby, why? Why?
That is a
Ask
good
me
question.
why.
Yes. You need to understand, it's like, you need to be your own biggest advocate. And it is a skill set. It is a skill set that as you get more comfortable doing it, you'll get better at it, and it won't feel so weird and icky, which a lot of people just have issues speaking up for themselves. So make that your goal for this year. I'm going to get better at just not accepting shit for what it is and asking, why is this? What can we do? How do we make this better for me? So you get out of debt, you pay off this $80,000, you negotiate your way out of it. What's your next step to putting yourself in a completely different financial position where now you can start investing in real estate and building wealth and starting businesses?
Oh my God, side hustles upon side hustles upon side hustles. Let me tell you something. When I started to realize that I could do that, I felt like a power. I just posted something the other day about today about paying credit airline with like miles, right? And I getting it for $97. It's like, te da un poder, like a power, like, dang, I did that. I did a roadmap and I was like, I need to understand what I need to bring in income. Because if you're making the same over and over, it's going to be hard. You have bills and all that stuff. So my whole thing was easy formula that anybody can think of. Make more money, spend less. That's it. Make more money, spend less. And my wife and I were really big on that. We love certain things, but our cost of living as a family unit is very low. That if God forbid anything happened, we would be really, really good, because we're in that position that we live a life where we have our needs, and when we want to go do something, fine. But our side hustles, that's the money that you make to start to replenish your savings, to start that Roth IRA, to put some high yield savings account. And so that's what I did. And then I started, because of course I always had different little gigs and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a couple of hours of this. I'm going to teach here. I even taught English, girl. Let me tell you the things that I've done. Si yo te digo, you'll be like my mom. She's like, tú sí te, you always are in something. I am.
Give us some examples of what are the side hustles you had.
Girl, teaching English online. Don't laugh, but it makes good money because it's the Spanish speakers who wanted to do that. I have, oh gosh, let's see, like going into the stores, like Secret Shopper. I used to do that. It's not a scam. You got to work for a real company because it does really work. You know that when the promotions, when you go into the stores and they're like, here's a little wine, taste it. The promotions, people in the events, they make a lot of money.
Wow.
Girl, you know me, I'm like, tú quieres no me pella. No, like, no, but promotions. Oh my gosh. The Pillsbury, so in Miami and Hialeah, they have a lot of promotion companies, and you would go to the mall and have them like do like product presentations. I did that before. Like, I've done a lot of stuff. I've done appointment setting, a lot of stuff when I was in that first phase of like hustle. Now my hustles are a little bit different. They're not really side hustles. They're more like businesses, but those side hustles would bring this to funnel the money for my savings. So I didn't feel like, oh my God, my salary, okay, this is for this is for that. Those were funneling. And that was my plan. And that's why I keep going back to budgeting, because if you can't budget $100, you're not going to budget 1,000. You're not going to know how to invest. People are going to tell you do that, and you're just going to go and run and invest. And you're not thinking, well, is that a right investment for me? And that might be a little aggressive. So let me just put it in here, so that's what I did. That was the first thing that I did. And I was able to save money, but also learn about private money. So when I did buy my first investment property, I didn't even use all my money. You understand? Like, so it's thinking about ways of how money works for you and como la gente blanca lo hace, because they do it all the time, but
we have to unlock those same secrets, right? And that's where that self-education comes from, and the exposure to just different ways to make money. I want to ask you, so you're doing all these side hustles while you're working full-time? Like, what's your full-time gig?
Marketing. So I am a co-founder of a marketing company, Alchemy Marketing, and I also do contract work for marketing as well for other email marketing companies. And then I have a craft business that I just started in November. We teach different crafts like rug tufting and sandal making, because that's my passion. Crafts and creating and sewing, that's my passion. So I wanted to have a passion business in there too, but marketing is my main thing. And then of course the blog and the rentals, buying property. I just flipped the property. It was actually my first flip. And I was like, dang, I could get used to this. And it's a new strategy, because my strategy is buy and hold. So now I'm learning, like you keep learning and you're like, I might want to get into notes, or I might want to do flips instead of long-term rentals, or, hey, I live in Florida. People love coming over here to vacation. So I do all of those different aspects. But yeah, marketing is my baby, because that's what hypes me up. Like, you give me a business and I'll tell you 5 ideas. Like, oh yeah, you could do that.
Is that what you've been doing since the beginning of like your career, is marketing?
No, actually, my career, I started in fashion. I was a fashion designer and I did fashion merchandising. I studied marketing in college, but I had my own line. I worked for like big companies like American Express, ESPN, and I was doing other different project management per se in the marketing field. So I worked in the corporate field for a long time, because of course you get out, you want to do that. I mean, I'm a little old, so I'm not going to say, like, back in the day, we didn't have like social media like this. And so that's what you did. You worked for a corporate, you clocked in, you did all that. So I was in that field when all of this was happening. So that's why I was telling you that budget is important, because even if you make the money, if you don't know about money, you don't realize how much you spend. And then you're like, I'm making all this money, but I'm not even seeing it. And so how am I in debt, or how am I in credit card, or how am I credit like this? Because it's the education piece. Like, you got a budget. So yeah.
That's incredible. Mm-hmm. You've had many lives, it seems like, and you've had a lot of different projects that you've learned how to make money from different sources. Let's talk more about your transition from corporate to now having your own business. Can you walk us through that journey? Because there's a lot of people who I talk to as a business coach who are convinced that like they don't know how to do shit to turn into a business. And I always like to ask people, like, do you have a job? Are they paying you to do something? If the answer to that is yes, then you know how to do some shit that you can charge other people for, and you don't have to necessarily exchange those skills in a 9-to-5 job. So what was that transition period like for you, and how did you figure out what you could sell?
So I would say that start with, what is it that there's a need? What you are passionate about and doing. See, I love marketing. I really love marketing. What is it that you love, and how can you teach someone, or how you can transition? So I had a contract. I still have this contract now, which is a client of mine. And I said, let me start with that, and let me get all these little mini contracts. Let me get my feet wet. You could go on Fiverr, you all. Like, that's why I posted about the UGC. Didn't know anything about it. I was like, let me just do this for fun. Go on Upwork, whatever your specialty is, go and look for little contracts and do little things to get your feet wet, to see if this is something you really want to do. Because I'm a mom, so my advice might be very different from someone else. I don't want my daughter to grow up pasando trabajo, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't want her to think about like, ay, la luz, la agua, this, but I want her to know how strong we are as her having 2 moms, and we're both Latinas. My wife is Cuban and I'm Dominican. But I also want her to know that, like, you could take what's called a calculated risk. Take risk, but take them calculated, where they're not pendeja, like you're making just like, oh, I'm going to leave. No, use those platforms, use social media, start gaining like little clients here and there that you can say, hey, I'll do one thing for you, or become an intern, all that stuff. Those are all the things that I did and I still do, to be honest with you, because it is a journey. You know, the alchemy marketing is still very new. I am co-founder with one of my good friends, and she was in a business and we came together and did it. Like, you might need to do it with a partnership. My whole point is like, start to test your model. Like, if you're scared, test, because then you can pivot and then be like, you know what? I don't want to do that no more. I want to open this because it makes me happy. Another one I think I want to say is run your numbers, man. The math don't lie. And I'm not talking about that girl math that we hear on social media. If you return, no, boo boo. If you return something, that's no, not your money. Okay. Do the math, because the math doesn't lie. If you know that your budget and your cost of living is $5,000 a month, look at your expenses, because you're going to be in that transition period. And don't ever be too prideful to take on other roles, even if it's a little part-timecito, until because at least you'll be happy. That's my advice. And that's what I've done, and I still do. I keep it real.
I love it. I really think the best time to start a business is when you still do have that paycheck coming in, right? Because then you can use a portion of that paycheck to invest in your business. You have that level of stability that can allow you a little bit of freedom to experiment. And I always recommend practice paying yourself. I put myself on payroll before I decided to transition out of corporate, because I wanted to prove to myself that I can issue myself a consistent paycheck, that my business is flowing, that it is sustainable. Like, the time to do that is not after you've left. Obviously, there's going to be circumstances that might require you to take that leap, especially if you're trying to do something that's related to your industry and there's regulations and restrictions and things like that. But if you can practice being your own boss while you're working for somebody else, it's going to make the transition much easier, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, like, that's why I said all these little side hustles and these businesses, you take that money, like the contract that I was telling you, I was taking that money just for investing in savings, but also telling yourself, like, you have to be disciplined. I think that's another thing that we need to talk about. Like, you want to do this, you need to be disciplined enough to be like, yeah, I can do this, but also have this podcast and other or whatever books and your community that's going to be like, you could do it, girl, because I trust you. It might not be your immediate circle. They're going to be like, yo te dije a ti, no dejes ese trabajo, bueno.
It's true.
No, right?
That is so true. I saw a quote the other day on social media and I was like, damn, this, like, everybody needs to hear this. It said, if you want more freedom, you need more discipline. And when you really think about that, you want the option to quit your job, you better be disciplined about saving that emergency fund. You want the freedom to stop working, you better be disciplined about those investments. You want the ability to work on whatever projects you want, you better be disciplined about getting your money shit together. When you put it like that, we owe it to ourselves to give ourselves and our dreams the same level of effort, of energy that we're giving to these corporations, that we're giving to all these other people. Like, you should be your biggest priority if you want to have the most options in life.
Absolutely. You are the one that can self-sabotage your whole journey. You are the one. Now, me caro.
Yes. Let's stop blaming all these external things as reasons why we can't make progress. You got to own your shit. All right. So talk to me about real estate, because you mentioned that you are also a real estate investor. I know you mentioned that your dad got his first property super young. How much of your journey as a real estate investor can you attribute to your father? And what does that actual, like, part of your financial life look like?
Yeah. So I will say that no, my dad did not give me anything. I'm going to start off with that because I think that's really important. My dad is very like, you work for, especially with me and his daughter, like, I'm going to give you all the tools. But he is literally my confidant. Like, I call my dad, oye, papi, ¿qué es lo que tú crees? Because he has a lot of experience in real estate, not just with residential, but also commercial. So I've always go to him for advice. But in the beginning of it, I try to do it myself because, you know, there's like a little pride and a little thing like, I don't need him, right? And I try to do it by myself, but then I had to come to a conclusion, like, it's not about doing it by yourself. It's about just hearing from someone who's going to give you a good perspective, who's going to look out for you. Because in the real estate industry, like, there's some shady MFers out here. Like they're shady. They're all for them. And of course, I get it. It's a business. But sometimes you can be naive. And coming in, I was very naive. And I knew that I wanted to buy a property. I knew that I wanted, like, the house that we live in right now, we purchased it at a great price. Like, we knew that this is going to be for our daughter, but we're going to use it as an investment, use it like the monopoly that we have, you know. To answer your question, I started with the real estate and I bought my first property in Minnesota. I knew that Florida wasn't going to be my market because I had a budget. Again, back to the budget, the money. And I knew Minnesota was going to be, it's an untapped market for a lot of reasons, for the factories and all that stuff. And the investment is very low to get into. And I had a group of people that can help me, like management, to fix things. So I was like, I'm going to start there. I'm going to start with out of state investing. And everybody was telling me, don't do it. So of course I'm going to do it because when you tell me not to do it, and you tell me I can't do something, let me show you how. And so I bought my first property there, and I had my dad to like be my confidant, but not once did he give me $1 on anything, just support, because I needed to feel like I did this by myself. And when I tell you that I purchased that, like, I felt good because I'm like, this is not just about the rent and the cash flow and all that. I knew that the strategies were bigger. It was just about, I came from zero. I had dollars in my account at one point, twice in my life. And now I'm doing this where I can do whatever I want with this cash flow. And then after that, flip it or whatever I want to do with it. Education. I'm going to go back to education, educating that I did want to go into real estate investment because it was a type of strategy that I enjoyed, that I liked. I like the negotiation. Like I love it. Stocks and trade, all that stuff. Yeah, I do a little bit of all that. But real estate was where I wanted to start my investment portfolio per se. And then I chose my strategy, which I told you, long-term strategy. I didn't want to do midterm rentals as yet. I didn't want to deal with that. Again, my market is Minnesota. So ain't nobody really going into that little town for a holiday.
For a vacation. Yeah. I'm not trying to go to
not like that. So again, I did the math and I said, this is going to be right for me. And right now that is my market. I'm thinking about Jacksonville, and I just flipped another duplex that I had. It was by myself. And I call Papi. I'm like, Papi, ¿qué es lo que tú crees? Ajá. Okay, está bien. You know, my dad told me how to sell it in December. He's like, put it on the market. And if you're going to tell you this, and that's what I love of my dad. Like, he doesn't have pelo en la lengua. Like, he just tells it how it is. And he tells me how to like approach certain things, which gives me confidence. Because I don't have a circle of people like that. I mean, I have friends that do invest. My best friend, she's been investing, but I feel like that's important, and it also helped our bond. And it helped me understand him a little bit more too, like why he was hard on me and why it just, I don't know. It made me think about like how he raised us. And just real quick, you guys, it didn't start with us. That's a book. If you haven't read it, I don't know if you haven't read that, but it talks about like, girl, you got to read that book. It really talks about like, it didn't start with us and how our parents really raised us. It didn't start with them either. And so that gives us a lot of perspective of how we are with money and our relationship with money and what we feel. If we think that everybody with money is bad, that's our perception and why we're not going to want to make money, right? So you got to go to the root of the problem. And with real estate, I went to the root of like, who can really support me in that? So yeah, right now I'm thinking of either Jacksonville or Daytona as far as continuing my portfolio. But I'm taking it con cógelo suave, con take it easy, you know? I'm not rushing. I'm not trying to be a mogul like that. No, I'm doing it because I'm not doing that. To be honest with you, my happiness is to have a vaquita. I want a cow. I want to live abroad. I want to have 2 homes. Like, that is my happiness. I want to retire, like really retire and do like craft and bake bread and play merengue and bachata. Like, hello, your dream might be different from mine. So taking it easy with the real estate. It is always new every day.
I love that. I feel like you are talking about embracing this idea of just being like a perpetual learner and just being okay with doing things scared, doing things that maybe you just haven't seen done before, and knowing that you can trust your intuition because you're going to figure shit out. And I think that's like half of the battle is just trusting your gut to know. And sometimes we're going to get it wrong. Sometimes we're going to make mistakes, but all of it is going to be for a purpose, to learn, to grow, to evolve, and so that you can go and approach things in a different way the next time. I want to know from an education perspective, because a lot of the times we're teaching ourselves these things. What's your go-to resource for learning more about real estate investing? And how did you actually figure out that like out-of-state investing was the move for you?
So my dad did out of state investing in Minnesota. So I kind of already had a little up in the mark. And then I actually lived in Minnesota for a while, my wife and I. And so we kind of already had an idea of how that market was in the sense of like around there. And then I started just going to the people who are actually doing it, where you find all these online, Instagram, TikTok. And I started to take courses with different investors that were teaching you techniques of like private investor with lattes and leases with Soli. I don't know if you've heard of her, but like she teaches about how to raise private money. And I was like, wait, what? And so those are the tools that I wanted to learn about, or even learning about subject to seller financing. Like I took one topic and then I laser focused on it. And then I said, how does this look into my strategy? Because that's another thing when you want to do any type of investing, you can't be a hip hopper. Okay, you got to stick to one, figure it out, and then test to see if it works for you and then add on unless you're ready and you're educated, because then you're going to feel like, oh my God, if you're new to it, you're going to put your money in all this stuff and you're not going to see it. It's not liquid there. You know, it's a house. I have a house sitting there, you know, it's different. So I think that I would go to the people that are doing it. I'm big on that because they're going to be able to give me their advice, but also their experience. Like, I don't want to hear what wonderful happened to you. I want to hear what the heck bad happened to you. Like, that's the first thing I ask people sometimes. Like, what was the most screw up that you did? And then boom, they started. And then I started talking to other people that did out of state investing and like, what are the pros and cons? And again, back to my budget. I like cheap properties. Give me a $50,000 property or $30,000 property that I could make a cash flow. It doesn't seem a lot, the cash flow, but if I could flip that and then make a profit, then it works for me. You understand? So
I love it. I really think when it comes to anything as far as investing, you need to educate yourself. For me, I'm a real estate investor in Puerto Rico. And before I decided where on the island I wanted to invest, I spent a lot of time visiting different places. I booked Airbnbs in different cities. I wanted to know, what is this neighborhood like? Who lives here? Who comes here? What are the tourist attractions? Where are the places that people are hanging out? You need to understand the market that you're going to invest in before you just decide to invest, especially if you don't live directly in the area, right? And so I think just doing that upfront research, really getting clear on what the nuances are of that market. What's the financial situations like? Like, for example, when I bought my condo that I use as an Airbnb, I knew that condos were not selling for the prices that they were being appraised. I knew that there's a lot of HOAs that are financially underwater. And so that's going to cause issues when it comes to getting a loan with the bank. So I knew if I want this property, my best solution is to pay cash. That way I don't have to deal with the bank. I don't have to deal with appraisals. I know that this property is cash flowing because it was already being used as an Airbnb. I have that data. I know that this place is really popular with tourists, and it's been an incredible investment, but it's because I educated myself. I created the opportunity. I knew what I needed to do to make this happen. And I had some fucking patience too, because there was opportunities too that fell through because it wasn't the right time, wasn't the right situation. And you just have to be okay with understanding like things are going to happen when it's meant to happen and when you're also prepared for that shit to happen.
yeah. And I want to mention about having an exit strategy, because a lot of people in real estate investing, they don't talk about budgeting too much and they don't talk about their exit strategy. Because I'm Dominican and a lot of people are asking me, like, are you going to go invest in DR? And I'm like, cógelo suave. First of all, DR don't do business like America. That's one. Two, you want to pay cash, like exactly what you said. Three, there's a lot of other components you need to think about. So you have to have an exit. Even me in Minnesota, like you have to have an exit strategy. What happens if I can't do this? What will I do this? I had a friend that she was selling, she had a short-term rental and she was using like Verbo or something like that. And she's like, no, I only use Verbal. And I'm like, girl, what do you mean you only use Verbal? She's like, no, because I only use you. I'm like, and then she's saying that she's not getting people. I'm like, girl, put a website. Start doing some Google ads. Start doing your own little videos. Like, pretend that you are a resort and that people are coming to you and you got, ropa vieja for dinner. Like, I was giving her this and she's like, oh, I could do that? I'm like, yes. You can't just be sitting on I'm on Verbo. ¿Y qué pasa si Verbo goes tomorrow and Airbnb? What are you going to be doing, right? So you got to think outside the box of like, how can I shift and pivot? If you got a rental and you can't get people in a short-term rental, Is it a nice opportunity to do videos and photos? Rent it out for that. You got to get creative. But the thing is, you have to think of those in advance. So if something happens, you're able to shift and pivot. So yeah, I have to just say that because it's not that you're preparing for something bad to happen. You're just taking that calculated risk with a little bit more security.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Okay, so I know that one of the reasons how we got connected on Instagram was because you tagged me in a post where you were sharing some blog success, some additional revenue stream info. So tell me about your blogging journey and why you think people need to be taking blogging more seriously.
First of all, I hate writing. I love talking and I love doing videos, but I'm like, I don't want to write. But I also know as a marketer about the power of SEO and the power of that. If your name is coming up multiple times or information is coming multiple times, it's like if you're in the sea, it's going to come to the top. So I listened to your blog a lot, and I don't know, you were talking about multiple things, and you were talking about, I think, like AdSense, or you were talking about like ads and stuff. And then I went down that rabbit hole of like ads. So like getting connected with the AdSense and other parts of like how to embed inside your blog article. So don't just be talking about how beautiful this jacket is, like start tagging it and see if they can give you an affiliate to make money off of that. And I was like, okay. Then I came across the UGC stuff, and I'm like, pues está bien. I got on Fiverr. I'm like, I'm just going to put it out there, do a little video. Girl, that paid for our Portugal trip last year. Literally, like when I get this stuff in the house, my mother-in-law and my wife be like, okay, one now. And I'm like, well, we're doing a video of this cafecito. So you better just give me the little light. Like $75 for like 10 minutes, $150 for like 30 seconds. There's a lot on Fiverr too about translating for Spanish. And that's another thing that I heard on one of your episodes about like using your culture too. Like don't be afraid to say, hey, I could translate that for you. We could do Spanish content. And you had, again, I listened to a lot. So there was like probably multiple episodes about using who you are, just embedding that in what you love. Like you don't have to create anything new. If you love to cook, like you said, to a blog of cooking, but how are you going to add that value to that person? And so that's what I did with Mamas Dinero. And from that blog part, I started doing the UGC. I do the AdSense. I'm like, I log in, and at first it used to be like, un peso, $1. And then now I'm like, okay, $5, okay, 20, okay. And then it adds up. Honestly, it does add up. So then I started to add more products. Like I added for the kids, the course, the financial literacy course. And that's on Teachable now. Like it's a free course for parents so that their kids can learn about money, having the conversation about budgeting and not these limiting beliefs. And I just ran with it. And so now this year, my whole thing was, okay, I tested the process last year of just making it. Now this year, I want to automate certain things. I want to learn that automation where now it's just really taking, even if it's a couple $1,000s for that year, like I want to see what this can do, because if you're making money while you sleep, ¿y quién no quiere eso, muchacha? Right?
Hell to the yeah. We are not out here to be struggling no more. We want to be making money at all times for all reasons while we sleep. Okay. So I absolutely love what you're doing, Alicia. I want folks to find out way more about you, find out how they can get their money shit together by joining your community. Tell us where we can find you and how you work with folks to help them get their budgets together.
Absolutely. It's mamasdinero.com. Just go on there, whatever you're looking for. I can help you in all different types of ways, but first it have to be with your budget. Like you got to know where your budget is, like where you're at financially. And also for my mamas out there with children, like there's a lot of things that we need to set up our children. Like we have to set them up in a sense that if you're not going to be around, how are they going to be taken care of? Like there's a lot of things that in the Spanish, our culture, that we don't talk about. Like we don't talk about death. We don't talk about all these different things. Like that's important. So a lot of that on my website, you'll see. And then if you want to get into real estate investing like out of state, I have some resources, but honestly, DM me, email me. Come on my email list. Like we'll talk. I will jump on a call with you and we can work on a one-on-one, just to be like, I have to give you the facts. This is, you want me to tell you how it is? Give me the numbers. You got to be okay with it. I want to keep it real with people because I can't tell you like, look at your numbers and be like, yeah, girl. Oh, it's okay. No, girl.
Yeah, we're not here to gaslight you.
No, like you got 20 afterpays and you wonder why you broke. No, okay.
You're going to get financially audited when you talk to Alicia. So make sure that you are ready for the realness.
Exactly.
Alicia, I love what you're doing. I love your energy. And
Thank
I
you,
am
girl.
so excited to continue to see more representation in our community of what it looks like to be a badass wealth building Latina. Thank you for the work that you do. Folks, please make sure that you check out all of Alicia's resources. We'll have them linked in the episode show notes. And I am wishing you continued success. Thank you so much for everything.
You. Yes, and get the book, you guys. Financially Lit. Get it. I already ordered mine with my puntos, my points on my credit cards. Go get it now.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Bye.